Hey there. So I've never actually used a screen recording software before, so this is very exciting for me as well. All right, so I'm going to show you how you create a Facebook ad. I'm actually going to make one right here. You're going to watch me go through all the different steps so that you've got an idea, and I'm going to talk you through it. So before we start, of course, you need to know how to get into Ads Manager. And there are two ways from the Facebook.com screen, but honestly, I don't want, and there's a lot of personal information on my Facebook that I'm sorry, I just don't want to share with the internet. So here we go. You can just click that create an ad button. You can go to this address, facebook.com/ad/manager. You can also just click this big manage your ads button. I got there literally just by searching Facebook ad manager. It's this link, Facebook Ads Manager, and you'll be able to get there. And again, there are also buttons from your Facebook.com front page that I'll show screenshots of in the email. So anyways, we are going to go and create an ad. All right, here we go. Facebook Ad Manager is here. That is my account and profile picture. I do quite like the options that Facebook gives you. It's personally, I find it fairly intuitive, and it's not pretty straightforward. Brand awareness here, obviously, and also they have the little info icon if you need more information. It's just these two are really more about just making it so that people know you exist. They're less about making sure people actually click or buy anything. Then here, these are all different options. These are not specifically sale options. Like traffic is basically just people clicking the link. Engagement is people, liking or commenting. This, people installing your app. So depending on what your business is, what you offer, video views, like I said, it's fairly straightforward. So when you're starting a campaign, just kind of think about what your end goal is, and then there are a really good number of options. Like this is even get people to go to your brick and mortar store. So today, this is just a mock-up. So we're just gonna say I want people to message my page. Sure. All right, we're gonna set up ad account. Okay. And you put in your account country, your currency, your time zone. And you could use a different name for this. You could use a business name if you want, and as it says, you can change this later. This stuff is pretty much all, it's all confidential. These aren't things that your customers are going to see. This is all for billing because, of course, it costs money to advertise. So put in the right information, basically. Then here we're going to be creating what is called an ad set. So this, not entirely sure why, but Facebook wants me to advertise to people in the United Kingdom. So it's decided to create and if you see, when we first started here, it said GB-18+, and it was selected the United Kingdom, so GB, I assume, stands for Great Britain, and since I removed that, it's taken it out, so Facebook is actually kind of like creating the ad set name for me. Alright, so, and here, choose an ad type. You can either do click to messenger, and that's where you'll see a post on your page that and people, they just click the send message or that. And then here it's sponsored message. So this is for if you've got a business page that already has messages from people. You can actually send messages to people who've already talked to you. So this is nice if you have an audience already that you want to contact. but the click to messenger is how you actually build that audience in the first place if you don't have it. So I'm going to show you about choosing an audience. Okay, so again, it keeps guessing, you know, my which location I want. All right, so as you can see, you can choose pretty much anywhere. You can really go as broad or as specific as possible. So I grew up in a very small town in Connecticut. So I'm just gonna put in Watertown, Connecticut, and I'm not gonna say 25 miles. I'm gonna say current city only. And as you can see, it was a very small town. My potential reach is now only 6,400 people. So if I was still living in Watertown and I really wanted an ad specifically for people like in that area, then I could set this up and only people in Watertown would see it. And of course, you can see cities within radius, and you can set it to, you know, between 10 and 50 miles, which is pretty decent. Setting it to 10 miles, even that brings it right up to 150,000 people. There's quite a few big cities near Watertown, so if I had a business like in Watertown and I wanted to attract people from the area, then I might set it to 10 miles because that's a pretty reasonable amount of time to drive to a store or a restaurant. So this way I'm not limited to only people in that one small city, which I didn't realize was that small before I did this. So um, I love playing around with this just because it's so interesting seeing what information you get. All right, so and you can also, of course, go really broad. So if I wanted to, I could say all of the United States. I could say all of Europe. Actually, I can just say all of North America if I wanted to. Yeah, there we go. So of course I've got these two huge audiences. So I've got potentially 565 million people, and if I wanted to, I could just target literally every continent on the world if I wanted to. Um, I don't want to. There's not many products that you're going to want to do that for. So again, this is where knowing your audience pays off. You don't want to just go totally off the radar. So just to start with, a lot of times people they target America, and it's a big country. There's lots of customers. So even if you yourself aren't in America, if you have an online product, especially a digital product, so there's no shipping costs, you might want to target America. And again, you don't have to, but always consider who your audience is. And that does take a little bit of research, especially if you're trying to target people away. So if you are located in Spain and you want to advertise to Americans, definitely make sure you understand what Americans respond to, how they talk, and vice versa. Okay, like seriously, if you are American and you want to target someone outside America, I'm gonna be honest, my country, the citizens, we tend to be really bad at that kind of thing. So um, definitely make sure you do your research. You can even like join groups specifically for that area on Facebook, or you can join forums online. Like a couple years back, I studied Icelandic just because I liked the language, and so I joined a couple of Icelandic forums, which were pretty much all populated by people living in Iceland. So I learned a good amount about the culture just by doing that. So if you are serious about digital marketing, definitely consider doing that. Um, and all right, so once you decide what your area is going to be, you want to decide exactly who to target. And now this is something that I know it makes some people uncomfortable because it can feel kind of like it's not politically correct to say, oh, this product is best for. Um, but it's honest, and I talked about that in the video series earlier. You are doing people a favor by being honest about who will get the most value from your product. Okay, if your product is really targeted at middle-aged men and a teenage girl buys it, how much value is she actually going to be getting out of it? Did she just waste her money? Um, so yeah, don't be afraid to be honest with yourself, especially when you're just beginning, because when you're just beginning, you want to focus on the people that are going to get the most value so that you can get that ball rolling of happy customers giving good reviews. And you do not want to just do a throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks approach at the beginning, because then you risk getting a lot of unhappy customers who just weren't the right fit. So I'm just gonna pretend I'm making up an ad for my own old home organizing business, which I told you about before. So as I said, most of the people there were either retirees or parents. So if I wanted to just get pretty much everyone in that range, I would probably say something like 30 to 65. And yes, that does cut some people out. I mean, I'm a parent and I'm not yet 30. Um, but honestly, it was mostly people who were over 30 and even over 35, because it was people who'd been in business longer, so they could afford to spend a bit more on services like organizing. Also, all of them were women. Okay, I did not get a single man asking for the services, and I was not like specifically targeting it any way at that time. Like, I was hanging up flyers and I wasn't going out of my way to pick places that only women go. That happened to be my specific experience. Okay, so this is the audience that I personally would start out with for that specific business, just because it's the people that actually were using it, which I knew because I had clients, and I spoke to a couple other home organizers who gave me advice on where to advertise and what to expect. Which, if you are just starting out and you have no clients, you have no customers, definitely reach out to people who are in a similar industry as you, who've already been there, who know what they're talking about, because especially people who are successful at it, because they're just going to be so helpful. Um, and then here, languages. So if you don't speak English, or if you have customers that don't speak English, so I only speak English, so I'd pretty much have to say English, but let's pretend that I'd learned anything in Spanish class and just say, I want to specifically target Spanish speakers. Now I can do that, and I've got a smaller audience, but it's an audience of people that, because I have that language, I can target them. You could do it for pretty much anything else, like, say I want to target Japanese speakers. There we go. And I do keep in mind that this is based on Facebook's demographics, which honestly are really good, but it does rely on people giving the information in. So if there's a person, say, who speaks Italian, but never speaks it on Facebook, never marked it on Facebook, then they won't show up in the audience, and that is a little bit of a risk, but it's a relatively pretty small one. For things like that, you'll get plenty of people already. Actually, I think that's actually a good point for the Japanese, though. I've never looked it up, but I think 90,000 people in the whole of America, that seems really low to me, especially if you include people who have, like, a basic knowledge of it who aren't, like, native fluency. So I kind of suspect that that's low, and this is a case of where I might try an ad that, like, used a Japanese sentence at the top to kind of, like, hone in on the people who know Japanese, so that way it's kind of like, oh, hey, I also speak Japanese, I also offer these services in Japanese. Alright, so detailed targeting. Now this is really interesting, also a tiny bit unnerving, but remember, all of this information, it is confidential. Facebook doesn't share it with anyone. Facebook and Google Well, Google especially is great with privacy. Facebook has had some hiccups in the past, but they're really trying to fix that and re-earn trust. Um, they like uh, once you've run a successful campaign, you can kind of see the demographic information, like what interests the people had who responded, but you can only see it if you have enough response. So I think it's like a minimum of 1,000 people, because if there's at least 1,000 people, then you really can't target like, oh, it was definitely that person who liked this thing. They do try to keep the privacy very seriously. So if this makes you uncomfortable, honestly, it still kind of weirds me out how much the internet knows about us. But as I said, they do take confidentiality seriously. So, and the tool exists. Um, so as long as, again, you have a product that you know is quality and you're being honest and respectful in your marketing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using it. So we're gonna just try something. Let's be silly for a minute and just say people who like clowns. And so we have, this is an option, and then there's a bunch of other things. So Krusty the Clown for if you want Simpsons fans, Bozo the Clown, music group. Uh, so just a whole bunch of different options here based on clowns. So we're gonna say that guy. Alright, so we've selected clown, and now we can actually see how that has affected the reach. It's really cut it down. So again, this is where it's important to know your audience, and also where it is awesome to know your audience, because let's say that you sell beauty products, you sell conditioner for your hair, and for some reason the people who just love clowns happen to really love your conditioner, then you can be a little bit sneaky with the advertising and put the additional interest of clown in there, even though it's not directly related to conditioner, to kind of really make sure that the right people are seeing it. Also, I just decided that I'm going to be putting this video publicly on YouTube. So if you are finding this video and you've not seen my marketing series, it's on the email list. It's completely free, including this set. It's a series of 5 days of training in marketing just to get you started. It's specifically aimed at small business owners and artists, because I've known so many who just find marketing intimidating, and I really want to help you take that first leap, because it makes a huge difference. Right? Now, if I add something else here, that's like saying and, so, or rather, or, it's like saying or. So, people who like clowns, or people who like, like I said, gonna be silly right now, musicals. Why not? There we go. And again, like, look at all these different options, so you can decide which one. Like, see this field of study, which is pretty small, employer. Alright then. Musical, film, concerts, like a whole bunch of different options, and I'm just gonna say soul music, because why not? So this should make our reach a little bit larger, because it's including people who like clowns and also people who like soul music. Okay, and so that's increasing the audience. Alright, so if we want to narrow it down, so if we want to just say people who like clowns or soul music, but out of that broad audience, we only want people who also like water parks. Like I said, just being silly right now, and hey, if this is your target audience, then that is an awesome target audience. All right, and so now we see that reach is there. The reach you want, there's like no real rule of thumb, and it gives this advice. So right now it is a pretty broad reach, and if you have a product that appeals to a broad audience, then that's not such a bad thing. Sometimes you want to really narrow it down, though. So like you want to get very specific. Sometimes you want that reach to be much, much smaller. I think that's especially true if you have a very small niche brand, like that only a few people are interested in. And if you also be really aware of that, especially if you're local and you're in a small area, like that really small town that I talked about before, like there were only like 6,000 people in the entire reach of that town. So if I narrowed it down at all, that would be an incredibly, incredibly small audience. So you might not see very much results from that. So now we're going to talk about the estimated daily results real quick. So that is based on the budget that it has put in. So right now it automatically has a daily budget of $5. So with this audience, Facebook estimates that you'll probably be seen by about 300 to 900 people if you pay $5 a day. Now let's see what happens when we bring it up to $100 a day. Now there, obviously it goes up by a factor of about 100. So again, budget matters. Like I mentioned this before, that I recently helped someone who runs a charity, and so she has a very small reach. So she was just freaking ecstatic that she could get her ad in front of about 1,000 people for only like $20 a week. That was amazing to her. But of course, if you have a larger business or the goal of becoming a larger business and you have a larger audience, then this might be absolutely nothing for you. And also with the budget, it says you'll spend no more than $35 a week. Depending on which you pick, usually the budget is a cost per click. So what that means is that you only pay when someone actually clicks on your ad, clicks on your link. And honestly, it's really complicated how they kind of decide cost per click. If that's something you really want to dive into, definitely read further into it. It's beyond the scope of this. But yeah, so in theory, like that's a daily budget of $5 for a week. So it's possible that one day I don't get any clicks, so I pay 0, and then the next day I get a whole bunch, so I pay $10. And it is actually nice to have the option where you only pay when you actually get the result you want. I think that can be a little bit less scary for people when they're first trying it, because they know that like they're not just paying for something that gets absolutely nothing. All right, so going back to the audience here, actually building it just for a minute. Here, connections, and add a connection type. So if you already have an audience, you're gonna want to think about this one. If you have absolutely no audience, this isn't really going to do anything for you. But for example, you can specifically make your audience people who already like your page. So in that case, you are only showing the ad to people who already like your page, already like your product. And of course, you'll get much better results that way, but you're only targeting people who, already are fans of you. There are some campaigns where that's really valuable, but of course, if you're trying to bring in new customers, that's worthless. Friends of people who like your page can be helpful as well, because in theory, you figure that if a friend likes the page, then maybe they have similar interests. Also, you've probably seen it on Facebook when they show the ad, it'll say like, it'll actually show the avatar of the friend who likes the page and actually say like friend's name likes product name, which is I know that it makes me stop a lot more often, so that's can be quite valuable. And here the option of exclude people who like your page. So when you do that, then you're only getting in front of new people who are not currently your fan, which again, if you're looking to bring in new customers, that's really pretty helpful. And after you start getting results, there are a lot of more powerful tools, but just for the very getting started, we're talking about this. Placements, as it says, it's where the ad gets placed. And if you do automatic, if you are like brand new to digital marketing, I do suggest you just stick with automatic, because I really want to just keep this as simple as I can for you, because honestly there's so many different options, so many different factors, that if you just try to learn everything, you're probably just gonna get really confused and get cold feet and not do it. And it's especially if you're just starting with a small budget just to get your feet wet, you get so much information from running an ad campaign that it is absolutely worth it for pretty much any business owner, anyone who's offering a service, anyone who's offering a product, any professional artist. Just run a campaign, take that leap in, give it a try, see what happens. So yeah, just not gonna bog you down with the different placements and all that. As you go on, you'll learn a bit more about what's better and what's not. Create multiple ad sets gives you the option to make several ads at the same time. So again, as you get more in detail, that's really valuable. But to start with, we're keeping it super simple today. Now you choose, you have the option to either create a new ad or use an existing post. So if you had a post that you really want to share with people, or like you shared a link to your page and you worked really hard on that post, then you can just boost the existing post. You don't have to make anything new. For create ad, of course, you get to create a new ad. And you can choose which page of yours, and the ad won't show your personal Facebook. It'll show the page name. Then we've got a couple of different formats. If you've already got video, video is super, super powerful for advertising. So people are much more likely to stop. So it is worth considering doing a video ad. Slideshow you can use a slideshow as well. If you just have pictures, you can basically create a video ad as a slideshow. Just for today, we're going to start with the single image. So you have two options. You can either use your own photo, or you could use the stock images Facebook provides. And I'm going to show you that because it's got a whole lot of stuff. And it kind of targets what it is. So they're giving me this based on what's already on my page, what they think is going to represent my product best. And as you can see, like, they're good quality and they can apply to a lot of different things. Like, that might be good for coffee. Obviously, just so many different stock. So if you are just starting out and you don't have the best camera and you don't really understand how to take pictures, like, this would be good for like a maid or a cleaning service. You don't have to have a whole lot to get started. It is absolutely okay to use stock images to get started if you need to. Just again going in with what we've got, just see a clown, because we were putting in people who like clowns, so this might get their attention more. Just lots of different options, including like creepy ones if you want to run like a kind of Halloween style ad, and super fun ones for kids. Just honestly, the photos they have are pretty impressive. All right, so I already talked in the video series about how to think about the text, what to write, how to say it, how to speak to your audience. So if you haven't seen that video series, if you're watching this from YouTube, you haven't seen that video series, I'll put a link to where you can sign up for that. So, all right, I forgot to actually choose an image, so just gonna go with that one because it's cute. Yeah, if you haven't actually seen the video series yet and you need a little bit more help, absolutely check that out. As I said, it's completely free, and it is specifically designed to help small business owners make that leap to get into advertising with a bit more confidence and some good advice about making it effective. All right. Go and yep, and also set up messages. This is, if you've never seen this yet, it's actually quite neat. You can actually like create a series of messages that people see as soon as they contact you. So like if you're offline, people will still get responses. You can even set up a series where like they click specific set responses. You know, so like you can say, are you interested in this? And they have to click either yes or no, and then they get another message based on that. It's a really handy tool. But again, if that's too much for you, if you know, even just setting up this ad is too much, is a little nerve-wracking, you know, do not worry about it. And as I said, this is specifically an ad we're creating to get people to send messages to the page. So that option isn't gonna even come up if you're trying to get people to like click on your link or just raising brand awareness. So like you do not have to worry about that necessarily. All right, and then we're gonna say confirming your items here. Okay, and now here's where you actually pay, which I am not going to do because I do not want to run a clown ad to people who like clowns and water parks. But this is really just about getting started. All right, so that is the basic steps for how to create a Facebook ad. Went a bit longer than I was expecting it to, but I do hope that that's helpful for you if you've absolutely never created an ad online. I just really wanted to make it show you what the different steps are, kind of talk you through what sort of things you can think about, how you can use it. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm also going to have one up for Google AdWords if that's something you're interested in as well. And once again, if you haven't seen that marketing series, do check it out. And this is pretty specific, but I'm right now working on a course for artists that teach them how to actually make a living with their work. It's called the Prospering Artist Course. I'll put a link to that as well if you're an artist or if you know one who could, you know, use a little bit more money. All right, so thank you so much for joining me today. That was actually a lot of fun, so thank you.